Hey folks, and welcome to another video from A Plain Truth 2. This is on Facebook. Facebook's playing games today. Apparently they banned a couple books on autism and vaccines, and now trying to post and share and likes and whatnot is getting, you cannot do that. I cannot share, and others are having the same difficulty. So I want to put this up before Facebook is becoming just impossible to deal with. Very, very important article or statement, data collecting on what's going on by Kelvin Overin. And he goes on to say, regarding 5G and the people who decided on the technological explosion that is being implemented these days and the destruction of nature and damage to health, about total global connectivity using Google's balloons being released at a rate of 2 per hour, along with cube satellites of 20,000 of which are being delivered into the stratosphere in the next year, so that is the upper regions of the sky being saturated with laser communications, beaming to each other and to base stations on the surface, which are all linked to underground fiber optic cables, all connecting all the cloud storage centers, which are data centers and fusion centers, all run by artificial intelligence. This is the reality of total spectrum dominance owned by the military with the confidence of the technical, quote, one world government system. This whole system has been devised since the initial rollout of technology facilitated by the outbreak of World War I and II, where cybernetics, radars, and satellites began to implement the theories into infrastructures. 5G has nothing to do with making life more convenient for consumers to watch videos nor to make phone calls. It is to facilitate this, quote, global dominance. It has also everything to do with geoengineering and climate change weather modification technologies. In other words, total control of the natural global weather system to control the rain, which controls the growth on surface level. This is the function of the Internet of Things and the Internet of Farming, where trillions of sensors, nanodust particles, folks, will monitor everything in nature and feed this really big data in real-time synchronization in a, quote, planet-wide simulation, replicating, quote, Mother Nature to, quote, terraform planet Earth. Utterly insane, yet this is what they've been working towards for 100 years. This capability for geoengineering, nanotechnology, and biotechnology combined is a response able for the total control of all nations on the most macro level, affecting every individual on the micro level, and affecting every biological cell on the nano level. It's totally insane, though totally logical. This all makes sense to anyone except the transhumanists, for which just type transhuman 2045 into your YouTube. Type transhumanism 2045 into YouTube and watch what timelines have been planned for planet Earth by the generations of the, quote, elite families and institutions which are in charge of all this evolution of technology. For this, consider who envisioned the League of Nations, that's to upgrade to be called the United Nations, who have implemented the, quote, sustainable development of Agenda 21 and its upgrade to Agenda 2030, which reveals the purpose of 5G and, quote, the Internet of Things to facilitate the transformation of the natural world into the, quote, smart world, which is the interconnected technologies for all cities worldwide becoming smart cities. Just Google and YouTube search for the terms. The information is all promoted by the companies involved. No need to listen to conspiracy theories. The plan is spelled out quite clearly by the powers which are implementing the system, while we are busy being entertained by too much information overloads, or I call the run to numb. Once they get us numb, they can say anything and nobody will react anymore. And then also Elon Musk is talking about the 5,000 satellites he's throwing up there to run 5G from up in the high altitude platforms in space, the HAPS. So this is all dovetailing with that as well. All right, back. Until the trees started getting butchered and the people began to realize this technology plan really is a, quote, global full spectrum dominance, and these people are not joking nor exaggerating, not even hiding it. Distracting people to not look gives the okay for them to work away quietly, but they have also explained this whole plan through sci-fi, through screens, on the World Wide Web, the so-called truth movement. I'm still trying to work all this out, but it seems that we're caught in a loop. The information of the plan is available if you begin to look at it. the confirmation that the 4G is almost completed and that the 5G phase is well underway and that the 6G phase is already researched and developed and will be implemented by 2030. Too incredible to believe until they started cutting down the trees. And I got a report coming out in Paradise where the trees are being cut everywhere up there. Nobody's moving in. The place is still a ghost town. All the destruction and disaster is still sitting there in plain sight. Nothing's changed up there. That's my next report coming out. All right, continuing on. But how do we explain the size and subtlety of this technology plan without being looked at as if we're the insane ones, as if we, quote, believe in conspiracy theories? How do we stop the technology from being put into place? Here's more from the same YouTube channel, Singularity Prosperity. In this video, you'll be discussing why the internet connectivity is essential in ensuring a more prosperous future for all and to ensure many of the new technologies in development today. So I'll put this in the show notes if I can link it, some of these links in here this guy's put together. But basically, we're seeing the overall build-out, and that's why just the past year and a half from watching geoengineering as I have since 2005, 2006, I've never seen the intensity of what's going on in the skies today. It's being manipulated worldwide. We're seeing this around the world. Some people are calling this normal. But as people have been reporting all around the world, we're also having reports of a great increase in lung disease. And this is a letter sent to me from my dear friend Alana Freeland, who wrote the book about Skynet and what's going up in the sky. We've all heard for years about the covert depopulation's eugenics, but recently anti-geoengineering activist Patrick Roddy appears to have been targeted in San Francisco, that has obtained city death records pointing to a higher mortality rate from lung ailments. Could it be the conspiracy theory we've heard about for years is actually true, especially if 3 major delivery systems, excuse me, chemical trails from jets, rockets, and drones, GMO foods, nanofoods, piggybacked vaccinations can be maintained by beating the war drums of mainstream media disinformation and social media culling of, quote, fake news? That is really true. It appears that the global, quote, global elite are now experimenting with a slow-boiling frog culling approach rather than history's typical mass epidemics and conventional wars. With the environment properly weaponized as via geoengineering, bioengineering, we are experimented upon as we are herded towards transhumanism so that the medical industry and big pharma can continue to be enriched until our death. And then this is from Europe, from a site called The Art of Annihilation. Sorry to be so dark, folks, but these are the times we're in. And this is an act, apparently, from the manufacturing of Greta Thunberg. And this is how they're going to start promoting more of the urgency of climate change. Climate's always changing, so it's another oxymoron term. But Act 1 to disclose Greta Thunberg, the current child prodigy and face of the youth movement to combat climate change, serves as a special youth advisor and trustee to the burgeoning mainstream tech startup We Don't Have Time, and explore the ambitions beyond the tech company We Don't Have Time, to illustrate how today's youth are the sacrificial lambs for the ruling elite. Also in this act, I introduced the board of members and advisors to We Don't Have Time and explore the leadership in the nascent We Don't Have Time and the partnerships between the well-established corporate environmental entities like Al Gore's Climate Change Project, 350.org, founded by the Ford Foundation, Avaz, Global Unmanning, and the World Bank and the World Economic Forum. I deconstruct how Al Gore and, quote, planet's most powerful capitalists are behind today's manufactured youth movements and why. I explore the We Don't Have Time Thunberg connections to our revolution and the Sanders Institute, This Is Zero Hour, the Sunrise Movement, and the Green New Deal. I also touch upon Thunberg's famous family, in particular Thunberg's celebrity mother, Milana Erdman, Environmental Hero of the Year, in her August 2018 book launch. I then explore the generous media attention afforded to Thunberg in ways. So basically what they're doing is they're going to promote the youth to be the ones to start the climate change. We don't have time. It's our life. While the problem, reaction, solution. They spray the crap out of the skies. They put in biotechnology, smart dust. They cause all these illnesses. They control humanity from it, and then they get the kids all agitated, and they're going to blame it on our generation, which we deserve. The baby doomers are dooming the next generations for our willful ignorance, running up massive debts and allowing this all to happen without speaking out, because we're just in a party mode. We're just having a good time. We can't be bothered to be Debbie Downer and have dark clouds and doom and gloom in our lives because, you know, I can't handle it right now. It's just not going to work for me. And please don't bring up dark subjects at the dinner table. And, you know, what are you doing, Jamie? Why do you keep talking about these things? Why don't you just let us, you know, let us be? Sorry. Tens of thousands were murdered up in Paradise. This next report is just amazing how this is still happening and no one's talking about it. No one. I mean, this is going to keep going on, folks, until we take action, put our lives on the line, step up. If not now, when? If not you, who? And this is from my website, Taboo Blog, means towards a better understanding. And just to bring home a little bit more about this 5G, of course, my video is taken down, so we can't have that. But this is from Fullerton Informer explaining the 5G. It has a 20-inch wave that penetrates the body deeply and is particularly harmful to babies and children. Let me read that again. Particularly harmful to babies and children. 4 wavelengths, each 2 to 4 inches, are optimally absorbed by the human brain, heart, liver, thyroid, kidneys, and reproductive organs, impairing their functions. Effects include headaches, insomnia, tinnitus, heart arrhythmia, suppressed melatonin production, essential for sleep, DNA damage, and much more. The final 10 stimulus wavelengths of 1/10 to 1/2 inch target the eyes, the ears, and the skin, and fall within the resonance of the pollinating insect's antenna, producing bee colony collapse. What are bees for? Oh, they pollinate our food. No big deal. The U.S. National Institute of Ill Health National Toxicology Program's 16-year, 25 million study concluded in 2016 that cell phone radio frequency microwave radiation causes cancer of the brain and the heart. 5G radiation is worse, much worse. All right, so I just want to end up on this Google's future. Now, Google came out with their 10-year forecast, so it's really important because they run the show. Each year they come out with their predictions of what it's going to be for the future. So Google's IPO after 10 years, reshaping itself, the world in the future, whether you like it, want it, or not. This was about from 3-4 years ago, I believe. Larry Page is determined to push further. His vision is that Google's products and services will become the control center of people's lives. Companies' driverless cars will chauffeur people around safer and deliver goods within hours of online orders. We just saw Amazon now has a robot that walks stairs and delivers your food online. Yay! People won't even have to bother leaving their homes. It's a bother to leave your homes, which will be made more comfortable and enjoyable through the use of smart appliances. Robots will handle tedious chores and other jobs, freeing up time for people to enjoy lives prolonged by health management tools and disease-fighting breakthroughs engineered by Goo Gel. Want to know why it's named Google? It's Goo Gel, named after the black goo. Look it up. Internet-connected eyewear and watches will supplement the smartphones that ensure Google is a constant companion. Well, they tried rolling out the Google Glass, and people started calling them glass holes, and that was the end of Google's Glass campaign. But again, it's an invasive species, these corporations who are trying to transhumanize us all. Google's big bets are fueled by Page's belief that, quote, incrementalism leads to irrelevance over time, especially in technology because changes tend to be revolutionary, not evolutionary. Page has been taking risks since he founded Google, blah, blah, blah. So from the future, he predicts it's going to go big on artificial intelligence. Mouthpiece Bill Gates from hell came out and said artificial intelligence. My kid's going to school. That's all I want them to look at, artificial intelligence. Kao-Fao Lee, the writer of the book he was former Google chairman of Google China, has a book out that's really important to read about the New World Order coming in AI. He says by the 2030, 40 to 50% of all jobs will go away to artificial intelligence. By 2030, folks, 11 years from now. And also notice Vision 2020. What's 2020? Perfect vision. What are we coming up on? The year 2020. All the things are aligning to turn off our power, to turn off the ability to see. Isn't it bizarre world that they'd have Vision 2020, perfect vision, and they're controlling our entire environment, our entire ecosystem, and toxifying it all? So looking to the future, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, the next big step will be the very concept of the device to fade away. Over time, the computer itself, whatever its form or factor, will be an intelligent assistant helping you through your day. We will move from mobile first to an AI first world. And this, Mr. Kal-Fao Lee also said in his book, and here's Mr. the Oracle of AI. He's talking about the 4 kind of jobs that won't be replaced by robots. Just 4. Got it? Just to get this guy's background, he's got a PhD in computer science from Carnegie Mellon. He's been a vice president at Apple, Microsoft, and Google. He's the CEO of Chinese venture capital firm Sinovation. He was CEO of Google China. He says here, I believe AI is going to change the world more than anything in the history of mankind, more than electricity, he told CBS Scott Pelley on Sunday. And I just wanted to close this out. This is from my websites on Big Brother transhumanism. I've got a 4-part series I did back in 2014. And basically, much of what I wrote about is still coming true today and being played out. The slow-boiling frog and all. But it is picking up in intensity, and most of you are feeling that the world is increasing in intensity. Here's subliminal messaging they're using, Disney and the rest of these perverted guys, people behind it. But what I want to show you was what happened in Iraq back in George Bush 1 days with the technology they used. This is about the Iraq War I, March 23rd, 1991. The Gulf War I. They were surrendering in droves, almost too fast for us to keep up with. 2 Iraqi majors, both brigadier commanders, gave up their entire units, and one of them gave up their remotely piloted vehicle. Here's the guy with his hands up, turning in a circle to give himself up to a model airplane with a camera in it. Well, how did they do that, folks? What was the technology behind that? And again, as I read this, remember, this is 1991. So, you know, this is 2 decades more later, and look where we're at. A news brief was released in the form of ITV News Bureau wire service bulletin titled High-Tech Psychological Warfare Arrives in the Middle East During George Bush Sr.'s Operation Desert Storm. Okay? It's a detail of the PSYOP covert operations. Saddam Hussein's vaunted Republican Guard crack troops were promising Bush the, quote, the mother of all battles with many thousands of dead coalition troops. His Republican Guards were battle-hardened veterans of 10 years with Iran. The Iraqis had modern weaponry and were well-trained on how to use it. Yeah, courtesy of the United States, there were weapons. Something very strange happened, however. The mother of all battles ended before it began as hundreds of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of Iraqi soldiers surrendered en masse without even firing a shot. Here is what the British press reported on the incident. Quote, an unbelievably highly classified PSYOPs program utilizing, quote, silent sound techniques was successfully deployed. The opportunity to use this method occurred when Saddam Hussein's military command and control system was destroyed. The Iraqi troops were then forced to use commercial FM radio stations to carry encoded commands which were broadcast on the 100 megahertz frequency. The U.S. PSYOPs team set up their own portable FM transmitter utilizing the same frequency in the deserted city of Al-Kafi. The U.S. transmitter overpowered the local Iraqi stations. Along with patriotic and religious music, PSYOPs transmitted, quote, vague and confusing and contradictory military orders and information. But subliminally, a much more powerful technology was at work. A sophisticated electronic system designed to, quote, speak directly to the mind of the listener, to alter and entrain his brainwaves to manipulate his brain's encephalographic patterns and thus artificially implant negative emotional states. Feelings of intense fear, anxiety, despair, and hopelessness were created in the Iraqi troops. This incredibly effective subliminal systems doesn't just tell a person to feel an emotion, it makes them feel it and implants that emotion in their minds. While utilizing such a non-lethal covert PSYOPs resulted in many lives being saved, the question begs to be asked, how can Americans be assured that such a weapon is not going to be used on them by Big Brother, blah, blah, blah. So we're seeing that happen today. And this is Major General Albert Burt Stubblebine, who is the commanding general of the U.S. Army's Intelligence School and Center, as well as the Army's Electronic Research and Development Command, as well as the Army's Intelligence and Security Command. And where did we see Albert Stubblebine? Well, he was on Dane Wigginton's Geoengineering Watch, talking about 9/11. So why doesn't Mr. Wigginton get Mr. Stubblebine on the radio and have him talk about this technology that's now being used on people today. You're asking all the time, a lot of you truthers, well, how come people won't wake up? How come we can't get them to, why aren't they waking up? Why aren't they waking up? Well, you got your answer, folks. It's a silent communication system using very low frequencies and ultra low frequencies to mind control. And all they have to do is pulse these messages out through your TV, through your social devices, through any of these massive communications they got going on that we're chronicling here. And that's your answer. It's total mind control. But once you wake up, you operate at a higher vibrational frequency. Their techniques and technologies don't have as much power. And again, they operate on fear. They operate on emotion. They operate on hatred. They operate on anger, and they amplify it. So this is why we must have love in our hearts. This is why we must come together and find our tribes of those that are awakening, that are operating on higher frequencies. And the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing us all that he really didn't exist. All right, I'm going to go on to paradise here next. Thanks for listening. Hope this helps educate some about what's going on in the world today and how we can navigate through these incredible times we're facing. Peace, love one another.